The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. marched on Frankfort, Kentucky in 1964. A souvenir program book in the collection takes us there.
Here at the Kentucky Historical Society, we have the souvenir program for the Kentucky March on Frankfort, 1964. So in the 1960s, Black Americans were experiencing segregation and discrimination in many different aspects of life, and this included public accommodation. The March on Frankfort was an effort by local civil rights groups to push for House Bill 197, which would have allowed for an end of discrimination in areas of public accommodation. So things like restaurants, movie theaters, hotels, public transportation. They were seeking more equality as to their white counterparts. If we look inside of the program, we can see kind of an overview of the day, some of the participants that would have been there. Frank Stanley Jr. of the Louisville Defender, Professor Carl Smith, who was over KSU. We also see religious and civil rights leaders from places like Covington and Louisville, as well as some more well-known national figures. Jackie Robinson, who also spoke and participated in the march. James Farmer, Reverend Abernathy, as well as the most notable speaker of the day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Senator Georgia Davis Powers, who of course would become later a Kentucky State Senator. She was involved in organizing the march, and it really was a large interracial, interfaith effort. KSU's choir also participated in the march and provided music. Peter, Paul, and Mary, the famous folk singing group, were also there. Another really interesting part of the program is a directive on what civil rights advocates should do after the march. Writing your legislator, supporting civil rights organizations, talking about public accommodations, calling your legislator, really hammering home the importance of continued persistence. The March on Frankfort was partially in the same vein as the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, which had been so successful the year before. It's really interesting for researchers even in a more kind of modern context too, because even as recent as last year, Focus on Race Relations and other advocates were able to put together a 60th year anniversary of this march. And the March on Frankfort, especially if you know Frankfort and you know the size of Frankfort, 10,000 marchers coming to participate in this event is a really big deal, and showing their support in Frankfort, up at the legislature, and it shows a continued commitment to a long effort and fight for civil rights in Kentucky.
For more information, visit us online at history.ky.gov. From the Kentucky History Center and Museums in downtown Frankfort, I'm Doug High.